What's worse than being hated? Being ignored. Think about it. At least when people hate you, they notice you. But what happens when you feel invisible? When nobody sees your effort? Nobody values your presence? Nobody remembers what you've done? That's exactly what happened to Loki, and it may explain why he became one of the most dangerous figures in Norse mythology. Thousands of years ago, there was someone who seemed impossible to ignore. He was clever, resourceful, funny when he wanted to be, dangerous when he needed to be. Again and again, he solved problems that no one else could solve. He helped the gods escape disasters. He found solutions when everyone else failed. And yet, something was always missing. Because being useful is not the same as being valued, and being around people is not the same as belonging. You see, Loki was never truly one of them. Not completely. The gods accepted his help. They accepted his ideas. Sometimes they even needed him. But needing someone and accepting someone are two very different things. And that difference would eventually change everything. Because the most dangerous wounds are not always the ones people can see. Sometimes the deepest wound is spending years feeling like you matter only when you're useful. And when that feeling grows long enough, it begins to change who you are. That was the path Loki was about to walk. At first, Loki seemed to have everything. He sat among the gods, shared their victories, laughed at their feasts, and traveled beside them through the 9 realms. From the outside, it looked like he belonged, but appearances can be deceptive, because there is a question many people are afraid to ask themselves. Do people value me, or do they only value what I do for them? And for Loki, that question became impossible to ignore. Again and again, the gods turned to him when they needed help. When there was a problem, they called Loki. When there was a crisis, they needed Loki. When something had to be fixed, Loki found a way. But once the problem disappeared, so did the attention, so did the appreciation, so did the respect. And slowly, a dangerous thought began growing inside him. Maybe they don't value me. Maybe they only value what I can do. And once a person starts believing that every joke feels like an insult, every criticism feels like rejection, every disagreement feels personal, and the world begins to look very different. The strange thing about feeling invisible is that it rarely hurts all at once. It happens slowly, one moment at a time, one disappointment at a time, one forgotten contribution at a time. And for Loki, those moments began to pile up. Thor was admired for his strength. Odin was respected for his wisdom. Baldr was loved by everyone. Everywhere Loki looked, someone seemed to have a place, a role, a purpose, something that made them matter. But Loki's place always felt uncertain. He was welcomed, but never fully trusted, included, but never completely accepted, needed, but never truly embraced. And over time, that uncertainty became a wound, because people can survive criticism, they can survive failure, they can survive rejection. But what slowly breaks many people is the feeling that they don't belong anywhere. And once that feeling takes root, it starts changing the way you see everyone around you, including the people you once called friends. The problem with hidden wounds is that they rarely stay hidden forever. At some point, pain starts looking for someone to blame. And for Loki, that moment was getting closer, because the longer he lived among the gods, the harder it became to ignore what he saw. Baldr was loved, Thor was celebrated, Odin was admired. But Loki was useful. And there is a dangerous difference between being loved and being useful, because people forgive mistakes when they love you. But when they only value your usefulness, one mistake can change everything. And Loki knew it. Deep down, he knew that if he disappeared tomorrow, most of the gods would miss what he did, not who he was. And once a person starts believing that, every success of others begins to feel like a reminder of what they never had. Which raises a dangerous question. What happens when someone stops wanting acceptance and starts wanting recognition instead? Then one day, Loki noticed something strange, something everyone else had missed. Baldr, the most loved of all the gods, the one everyone admired, the one everyone wanted to protect. According to prophecy, terrible danger threatened his life. So Baldr's mother did something extraordinary. She traveled across the world asking every creature, every object, every force of nature to promise they would never harm her son. Fire agreed, water agreed, stone agreed, metal agreed, Even disease agreed, and soon the gods began celebrating. They threw weapons at Baldr. They struck him with blades. They tested his invincibility again and again, and every time, nothing happened. Baldr stood untouched, while everyone laughed, cheered, and admired him. But Loki wasn't watching Baldr. He was watching something else. He was watching the attention, the admiration, the love. And for the first time, a dangerous thought crossed his mind. What if the world isn't fair? What if some people are loved no matter what they do, while others can spend their entire lives proving themselves and still remain invisible? And once that question entered his mind, everything began to change. The strange thing about obsession is that once it takes hold, people stop seeing what everyone else sees. They start seeing what everyone else misses. And that's exactly what happened to Loki. While the gods celebrated Baldr's invincibility, Loki began asking questions. Questions no one else cared about. Questions no one else thought to ask. Because if there is one thing people often forget, it's this: nothing is ever truly perfect. Nothing is ever completely untouchable. And eventually, Loki discovered something extraordinary. A tiny detail, a forgotten detail. One thing Baldr's mother had overlooked: mistletoe, a simple plant, so small, so harmless, that no one believed it could matter. And suddenly, Loki realized something. Baldr was not invincible. He never had been. Everyone else saw perfection. Loki saw the weakness, and in that moment, he faced a choice that would define the rest of his life. He could walk away, say nothing, do nothing, let the celebration continue, or he could prove something, not to the gods, not to Baldr, but to himself. Because sometimes people who feel invisible stop asking, "How can I be loved?" and start asking, "How can I make sure nobody ignores me again?" And that question is where everything fell apart. Sometimes people spend years trying to be noticed for the right reasons: their talent, their loyalty, their sacrifices, their contributions. But when none of that works, some begin to wonder if being remembered is more important than being loved. And that is a very dangerous place to be. Because once Loki discovered Baldr's weakness, he stopped seeing a person. He started seeing an opportunity to prove something, to the gods, to the world, and perhaps most of all, to himself. So Loki took the mistletoe, the one thing capable of harming Baldr, and he placed it in the hands of Hoda, Baldr's blind brother. Then he guided the throw, just one moment, just one decision, and suddenly, the laughter stopped, the celebration stopped, the world seemed to stop. Baldr fell, and for the first time, every eye turned toward the thing nobody had noticed before. Not the mistletoe, Loki. Because in a single moment, he had accomplished something he had wanted for years. Everyone finally saw him, but not in the way he imagined. For a moment, Loki got exactly what he wanted: attention, recognition, significance. Nobody was looking at Baldr anymore. Nobody was talking about Thor. Nobody was celebrating the gods. Everyone was talking about Loki. He had become impossible to ignore. But there is something people rarely understand about attention. Attention and connection are not the same thing. Attention and respect are not the same thing. Attention and love are definitely not the same thing. And sometimes people become so focused on being noticed that they forget to ask a more important question. What will happen after people notice me? Because once Baldr was gone, Loki didn't find what he had been searching for. He didn't find belonging. He didn't find acceptance. He didn't find peace. Instead, he became more isolated than ever before. The gods who once tolerated him now turned against him. The distance he had always felt became real, permanent. And suddenly, Loki was forced to face a terrifying possibility. What if the thing I wanted most was never the thing I actually needed? Maybe that's why Loki's story survived for centuries. Not because people were fascinated by gods, but because they recognized something painfully familiar inside him. Because most people know what it feels like to be overlooked, to watch someone else receive the credit, to watch someone else receive the attention, to feel like no matter what you do, it is never quite enough. And that feeling can be dangerous, Not because it immediately turns people into villains, but because it quietly changes the questions they ask. Instead of asking, "How do I build meaningful relationships?" they start asking, "How do I get people to notice me?" Instead of asking, "Who truly values me?" they start asking, "How do I prove my worth?" And without realizing it, they begin chasing attention when what they actually need is connection. They begin chasing recognition when what they actually need is belonging. And that is where many people get lost. Maybe that's the tragedy of Loki. Not that he became a villain, not even that he helped bring about Ragnarok. The real tragedy may be something much simpler. He spent so much time trying to be seen that he forgot what he was actually searching for. Because deep down, most people don't want attention. Not really. They want to matter. They want to feel valued. They want to feel that their presence makes a difference. And when those needs go unmet for long enough, people often start looking for substitutes. Fame instead of connection, recognition instead of belonging, attention instead of acceptance. But substitutes rarely solve the real problem. And Loki learned that too late. The moment everyone finally noticed him was the moment he lost any chance of becoming part of the world he wanted to belong to. And perhaps that's why his story still matters today. Because the greatest danger was never Loki's intelligence. It wasn't his tricks. It wasn't even his anger. The greatest danger was a wound nobody noticed until it was too late. Maybe that's why Loki's story feels so uncomfortable. Because most monsters in stories are easy to recognize. They look different, act different, sound different. But Loki wasn't a monster in the beginning. He looked like everyone else, laughed like everyone else, wanted the same things everyone wants, to matter, to belong, to be seen. And maybe that's what makes his story so dangerous. Because the distance between a wound and a disaster is often much smaller than people think. So before you leave, think about this. What is more dangerous, being hated or spending years feeling invisible? Because Loki's story suggests something most people never consider. The people who make the most noise are not always the people seeking attention. Sometimes they are the people who spent the longest time feeling unseen. And maybe the most important question isn't about Loki at all. It's this: is there someone in your life who simply wants to be seen,